Why should sport be not as easy as, let's say, ordering a cab or
Correct.
ordering food online? So I mean, that has been the whole intention, saying can we make this whole process of playing your favorite sport as easy as join through click of a button.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of The Living Seagull. So now today we have Mr. Rahul Thomas, who is the co-founder and the CEO of Sporthood. Hi Rahul. So his journey is incredible. The kind of work which he and his team and his venture is doing in the field of sports is incredible, commendable and much needed. So I would ask him to talk about Sporthood.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Sporthood, we are today Bangalore's largest network of neighborhood sports clubs, and by this I mean high quality spaces where people of all age groups can come in and connect with the sport of their choice. So today we right from training 5-year-olds to engaging with 50-year-old youngs, as I call them, right? So you've got the entire gamut of sports enthusiasts who come in and with the idea of making sport part of their daily lives. So what we believe, I mean, one of the founding missions of Sporthood is to make sport accessible to all and make it very easy to access in the sense, right? So why should sport be not as easy as, let's say, ordering a cab or
Correct.
ordering food online? So I mean, that has been the whole intention, saying can we make this whole process of playing your favorite sport as easy as join through click of a button.
Yeah. So definitely we'll talk in detail about how you do what you do. Let's talk about why you do what you do first, because that will lay the foundation of the conversation. So how did this idea come to your mind?
So pretty interesting. So I'm after my MBA, I joined as a management consultant. So I had a 2.5-year stint where I spent quality time in Germany. And as you would know, Germany is like probably the most advanced sports market in the world, if you can say, especially for grassroots. So what I saw was people around me, everybody was playing, right from young kids who had their own weekend leagues that they would go out and play, to my landlord who was a 70-year-old. He had his team of 70-year-olds who would play volleyball once a week. And I was this, I went into Germany.
And that was so normal. Right?
That was so normal,
Yeah.
right? And I was coming from this context where when I myself had stopped playing at the age of 25, 26 after passing out, right? And we got busy with our works, and I've never seen my dad play, right? And here there is someone who's much older, much fitter, right? And he would have his group, and I found that this was a way of this was a very good way of living life, right? To be honest, and I tried it. And what caught my imagination was I went into this country not knowing the people, not knowing the language, but there was one thing I loved was playing football. And there was this 5-a-side turf in a university nearby where I could just take a €2 ticket, go join any games that happened there. So even though I don't know the people, I could bond with them through sport, right? This changed my life forever, if I would say, because I started going almost after every day after work, I would just go down, play and then go home. Fitness improved massively, lost a lot of weight, became much more fitter, happier, right? My wife started becoming active, right? She had never played sport in her entire life, right? We started cycling around all over the place. Suddenly we realized that the sheer happiness that we had in our lives increased a lot. To be honest, we didn't realize the importance of this until we came back to India, and I realized I couldn't replicate this.
This was which year?
This was around 2013. I'm saying 2012, 2013. There was no way you could go out and play, find a partner or find a good space without taking a lifetime membership to one of these gentlemen's clubs, right? Which would cost a fortune and you have to wait for 10 years. Which doesn't really work. So that got me thinking personally, and I started feeling the pangs of not playing. And I happened to meet my co-founder. He's again from same engineering college and MBA B school.
Mm-hmm. And both of you are batchmates from IMA?
Not same batch. We both passed out from IIM Ahmedabad. Arun was 2 years senior to me, but we knew each other from engineering college days. And Arun came with a similar story from US, where he used to play badminton and tennis quite often. And he came back. He was also struggling to find, get back into this playing rhythm. So yeah, we sort of, caught up over coffee like this. We happened to come back and work in the same company, so we caught up over coffee, and then we started off. We decided to sort of take the plunge, right? I mean, looking back, it was not a very well thought through decision or anything.
Why do you think so? It was not a well.
No, so I mean, so we come from the B school background, right? So you typically, I mean, people expect you to create a business plan first, have the model deck, Excel sheets, presentation, and proposals ready before you decide to take the plunge. For good or for bad, we did it the other way around. We turned the whole thing on its head. We jumped into the pool first, and then we decided we would figure things out. Also because we realized the market was very immature. At that point, it was very nascent. Lot of things were moving, it was evolving, and we wanted to figure out, most importantly, we wanted to figure out our customers, right? So we knew that market would evolve, right? It was logical, right? This whole active living movement that was there in the West had to come to India, right? And we could see the early signs in running movements coming in, right? And we knew that sports would follow. So that was the market size or the market potential was never a question. But what we did not know is we had our own experiences, but we did not have a broader understanding of what the customers needed, what the consumer behavior was. Best way was to actually take the plunge and figure out.
And actually, you guys were the first one to do something like this?
I would think so, yeah. So when we started, I mean, I still remember 2013, 14 when I came and scanned the Bangalore market. There are about 2 or 3 places where the first football turfs were being set up in Bangalore at that time. Right, where you could go, if you had a group, you could pay, book the court and then play. Right, so that was the, the start of this industry in India, I would say. And we've come a fair way. I mean, Bangalore, every 2 kilometers, there is a place to play now.
Yeah. So now, I mean, just walk us through how you do what you're doing. What are the executional process of getting more and more people on board into sports?
Right.
Yeah. How do you do that?
So let me break this down into different customer segments, right? So kids is the easiest part, right? So for a kid to pick up sport, they need to be trained. I mean, they need to be inducted into the sport, right? Taught the basics in a fun and engaging way. So this is exactly what we do. So I mean, kids are taught enough in school where they are examined, re-examined, there is pressure to perform. We give them the outlet to enjoy, but learning happens in the process. So essentially, we built a curriculum for kids, which is age and skill appropriate, but is 100% gamified. So essentially, the kids, without they themselves knowing that they are picking up, essential skills for the sport, learn it through multiple games. And once they've picked up a critical mass of skills, then you introduce the sport in its entirety to them.
So what is the channel through which the audience reaches out to you or you reach out to them? For kids, I think schools are the easiest.
Schools, yeah, for awareness, yeah, of course, tying up with schools, spreading the word helps. From our experience, our, connection with the customer has always been through social media, online, right? Your Facebook, your Instagrams, Google, that's been the source through which people got to know, and a huge percentage is word of mouth, right? So my kid is training here, and then, his friends come in, or, my friends, I refer to my friends. So a lot of it has been, organic and...
So it's, can I say it like, what about the B2B and B2C? So do you go ahead with corporate partnerships or anybody, if, let's say if I go back home and I call up my friends in Bangalore that, hey, I have heard about Sporthood and why don't you give it a try? Yeah. Then if that person will come to your website or your app. So from there you take it ahead.
Yes, that's right. So the strategy has been predominantly B2C. I find B2B as a huge enabler. Of course, B2B can be a multiplier. Honestly, in terms of, the stage of execution, B2B is not my prime focus now. I'm still, very much B2C. Because I feel that, you need to connect directly with the customer without an intermediary.
Will is needed.
Sorry?
Will, I mean, even for corporate crowd, I think will is needed. Will to play. Yeah. It cannot be a part of their HR activity, No, or what do you call it? Weekend HR activities. Yeah.
So that can be a good way to initiate people, but as you rightly said, this urge to play has to come from within. right? So which is why we go B2C as well, saying, you know, we try communicating, convincing people that, you know, this is why we should, you know, you should play, and, you know, here are people like you who are playing. I mean, more than this logical reasoning of why you should play, when people see that, you know, people like themselves are playing and this is part of their lives, right, then people feel motivated to come in. That's what we found, right? So yeah, so kids, as I said, back to the original question, kids, this is what we do. We introduce them to the sport, and then, you know, slowly as they pick up, we help them perform. So we give them competitive avenues to, you know, perform, compete, etc. So participation in leagues, all of that. And we have a system that is catered to taking care of kids from the age of 5 all the way to 15.
And what kind of response do you receive from the parents?
I mean, so very, very positive, especially in the metros, right? I mean, I've seen that this awareness towards sports and physical activity has picked up so much, right? I think this generation of parents, they realize what sedentary lifestyle can do to you, right? Because they're facing the heat, right? I mean, that is honestly one of the main, driving factors. Socioeconomically, India has evolved a lot. Our middle class has become much more affluent. So this, the need to find a job to feed oneself is, out of the equation for a large part of the audience, right? And it's this upcoming burgeoning middle class who have aspirations for their kids in terms of saying, they should also try out sport, right? They're willing to back some of their kids to even choose sport as a profession, right? So these are welcome changes that I see at the grassroots level, that we see on a day-to-day basis, which is sort of, catalyzing the whole movement.
Yeah, I remember, I think 2 years back when I met Saket for the first time, I guess, and I was surprised to know that I think more than 60 football coaches were employed with Sporthood, and I felt like, wow, because see, in sports, people, I mean, that is the notion that, okay, you have to, winning or losing and getting medal is the only prospect, and there are no career opportunities. And so that way I feel really good to see the emergence of companies like Sporthood, Play, or even The Bridge for that matter. Yeah. So it's a welcome change.
Absolutely.
And 20 years back, no one would have thought that a company is coming up and giving employment opportunities for football coaching. So just throw some light on what is the number, how many coaches are there for each sport?
So as of last month, we crossed 100. So we employ more than 100 coaches across the sports of football and badminton. We're there in 2 cities, Bangalore and Kochi. And yeah, we run about 22 clubs in these 2 locations, train about 2,000 kids and about 5,000 adults, have a customer base of about 30,000 people who come and engage with us.
And you also take care of the licensing process of the coaches and everything.
So coach education is a very important part of the whole scheme. So as I said, first step was building this curriculum, which, converted the so-called art of coaching into science. Right. So we broke it down to steps, finite steps with observable, elements that you would check for each child. And we built an entire system where these data points are fed back into our system. Right, so it's a two-way communication process. So the coaches have a coach app where each lesson plan is basically spelled out to them. They prepare well before their sessions, right? How to deliver, what to observe. The observations are noted back in, right? And the digital profile of each child, each adult is actually being generated while they continue to play with us. So essentially, on the surface, you may find us as, the go-to place to have fun and play. In the background, there is a system, a sophisticated system that captures a lot of data about, game, skill, fitness at the grassroots level that is being built.
And probably it's also the study of human performance closely, how
absolutely.
The kids are performing or the players are performing.
How they're learning. So there is also a learning angle, right? So, each age group, how do they learn? What do they pick up first? Right, so everything is age appropriate. That's been one of our biggest learnings from the grassroots coaching system, right? So what you try to teach has to be age appropriate and skill appropriate. There's been tremendous learning just by observing how kids learn, and this curriculum has also evolved. over the last 3 years.
Yeah, right. So just to take the conversation further, any good idea or any good initiative / effort. If when we form a company and we have people whom we are giving employment, and it has to be backed up by a rock solid revenue plan, because I have seen so many people, they have brilliant ideas, but then you cannot execute it without money.
Right.
I mean, you need money to run the show, and then that running the show needs to generate money as well. So how is that process?
Totally with you on that. Goodness of heart can, get you up to a prototype stage, but you can't scale it unless, fundamentally at the unit level you make, it makes economic sense. So we have hit upon this model where, as I said, we run sports clubs. Each club is unit positive, is gross margin positive, right? Which means we can keep scaling up the number of clubs under our belt. Right. So ultimately, essentially our model is this: we have an asset-light model. We tie up with infrastructure owners who have either set up a turf or badminton court, swimming pool, etc. A swimming pool we haven't gotten to as yet, but yeah, that's the idea. Any sports infrastructure owner is our ideal partner whom we tie up with. We help them monetize this asset, much better than they can do on their own, because of the inherent capabilities that we built in terms of coaching kids, training adults.
You have the science, they don't have the science of it.
Yeah, science and the technology, right? So even our app ecosystem helps us operate these centers much more efficiently than a mom and pop player would. And we give them a revenue share. So essentially it's a win-win. Right.
So, but then say for a city like Bangalore, we have seen emerging the number of clubs and facilities, they're increasing. But let's say if there are 1,000 badminton courts and you have taken over those 1,000, how do you scale up more than that? Because you are not into building of an infrastructure.
Not at the moment. But if you ask me, Sporthood, maybe 5 years down the line, 7 years down the line, I see us setting up our own clubs as well. Right, because that is important. See, again, the whole reason why Sporthood, how we are different is that we provide an end-to-end customer experience. Right from the moment you see us on our app or walk into one of our sports centers, right, we want to be in control of the entire customer journey. Right, that is important. So having control over the infrastructure, becomes important for you to deliver on that promise. Right. So today, given our constraints, level of funding, we, basically try to cherry pick the best infra that is available in the city and operate those, right, in the absence of capital to set up new infra. But going forward, once we reach a critical mass, I definitely see a future where we set up our own flagship, stores, centers where, we can do a lot more than what we do at our neighborhood units today.
Mm-hmm. How difficult was it to raise funding?
Very tough. To be honest, we started.
We have to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started this journey when this model formally 2015, 2016. Right. That's when we hit Bangalore market with this idea, and then we started this. At that time, we were way ahead of the market. Right. So nobody even sports as an industry or a vertical was not recognized at that point, right? So it was very difficult to convince people saying that there is potential here because they couldn't see it in front of their eyes, right? Thankfully, a few good people came together. Our first set of angel investors, right? They showed belief in us, and that's how I got my first round. A lot of early customers actually tagged in. So my first round is basically Mr. Raghunandan, Taxi for Sure. He was my first angel. Wow. He wrote the first check. So I went and met him, and he had gone through the whole journey of scaling up a business, and then I went to him for advice. I came back with a check. And that's
being a fellow entrepreneur, I can totally understand what it feels like. Oh my God, something similar happened with us as well. I'm an angel investor, hardcore sports lover, so it's a similar story. And like when you go for a conversation and just to pitch in your idea and you come back with so much, I can totally relate to that. So from there, so now, so like to scale up, like are you looking for funding right now? Yes, or how is it?
Yes. So we've raised a couple of angel rounds in the past, and we are very close to closing our pre-series A bridge round now. We've got our first institutional investor who's come in. So we'll be closing the round in a month's time, and we're looking at a series A probably 6 months down the line, and thereon.
And see, the fitness and sports as an industry, it has grown drastically. So today, especially in a city like Bangalore, so now I think 10 years back, no one would have thought probably an app like Playo would make so much of difference. And now then we have giant players like Cult, for that matter. and a lot other fitness brands as well. And in the past, I think, say 5 years, even investors and stakeholders in the industry, somehow they have found that it's a good sweet spot to be in. But then, on the surface it looks sweet, but then sports ecosystem, it has its own set of challenges. And like revenue generation is one, and especially I'm talking about we being a media company, and then the cricket and non-cricketing aspect comes.
Right.
But then for you, it's more towards fitness. So if
I'll correct you there. So so our customers, right, are people who love sport, right? Not necessarily. So our customers don't come to us to get, a ripped physique, right? They would much rather go to a cult, right, than come to us. Our customers are people who would follow the sport, right? Read about, football, they watch EPL, and then they want to play as well, or they want to enroll their child, right? So that's the psychology of people who come to us. So they're sports lovers first. And I believe this is a huge market. You look at viewership of our, top leagues. You take readership, right? I mean, the market is huge, right? People love sport, right? Most people don't know how to really engage. How do we start is the question that most of us haven't solved for them, which is what we are helping.
And I think, see, each one of us, for a sport like badminton, we have played it at least once in our lifetimes. School, college. And then after passing out from college and school, 10th, 12th, it's lost completely. There's like, we don't even consider playing. It's strange, but it's true. And probably that's why you exist, and that's why, but the kind, I must say this, the kind of work which you guys are doing, it's commendable. And
so on the adult side, a related point, what we found out was the most, we were trying to rank the, things that the friction points that adults were facing, right, that prevented them from playing, right. So one was this whole group formation thing. So now I have a friend circle. In college, my circle is big enough. All of us have time. So it's easy to, gang together and play. Once I start working, once I get married, my network shrinks. And the people whom I like, right, they are mostly not free when I'm free. Right. So this prevents a lot of people from playing, right? Point number one. Point two, next best alternative is, okay, if I don't know the person, at least that person should play at the same skill level as I do, right? Yeah. Now, how do I find that, right? There is no solution in the market that helps me find that, right? Three, so these are friction points for people who know how to play, right? And we solve these two. I mean, we'll come to that separately. But third, very big segment is set of people who want to play but don't know how to start. Haven't played for the last 10 years. Now, where do I start? Or a lot of ladies, they come to us saying, I really love this whole concept of playing, but I've never played as a child. I mean, this is unfortunate, right? Girls, we don't encourage them to play in school.
Ask me, my next question would have been that, the gender difference.
Yeah. Gender difference, right? So people need assistance. So biggest takeaway for us was people need assistance. They need a friendly, comfortable environment where they want to learn. People love learning. You don't stop learning, just because you pass out of college.
And it's not just about physical health, it's about mental health as well.
As well. Totally, right? So providing that platform, right, where you can come in and be confident of picking up a sport and have a comfortable environment where you can play with like-minded people, similar skill people, see yourself progress, right? Set goals for yourself, see how well you do, right? That works for most people. I mean, adults, that is the kicker, right? The moment you can do that, a large audience of people who would have otherwise stayed on the sidelines now get engaged into sport. So, I mean, I'm proud to say that we've opened up a, whole new segment of people who would, play football now, who otherwise wouldn't have, right? A lot of people, football, again, you have a lot of inhibition, right? It's a contact sport, it's supposed to be intense, will I get injured, right? But if you look at it if you approach it in a scientific way, 90% of injuries can be avoided if you do warm up and cool down properly and a basic set of conditioning exercises, very basic, right? That's it, 90% is done, taken care of, right? Most people don't know this, right?
Yeah. In fact, most of the people, they get carried away by the enthusiasm, which is like you just start this way and it comes down. That entire process. So that's why, and there is no even not enough awareness on the injury aspect as well.
Correct. So now it's changing. Now with more and more people getting into organized sport, I'm saying organized at the grassroots level. Right? There is more awareness. Now it's not that uncommon to find people warming up before a game. That's welcome, because my belief has been that if you do those basics right, you can keep playing forever, right? I told you about my landlord in Germany who was playing at the age of 70. It's doable because this person has been doing it right. Right? You don't have to stop.
Yeah. So Rahul, if you can give me, what is the number of customer base you have, the audience?
Yeah, so we have about 30,000 users predominantly in Bangalore, a little bit in Kochi, about a few thousand in Kochi, but yeah.
So plans of expanding to other cities?
Absolutely. It's a function of funding.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Sooner the...
Yeah, so potential investors, whoever is watching this video, you guys...
You know whom to contact.
Yeah. So, the sports ecosystem, it's we come across people often who say that the growth is slow or a lot needs to be done to fix. And a lot of people like you and me, we are putting in our effort to connect the dots and fix the system and in our own capacities. So, but then the process of entrepreneurship, like when you start, because when you start, you are full of just passion and idea. And you are not very much aware of the executional challenges which will come as a hindrance or as a learning later on.
Right.
And in that process, there are moments of highs and lows both. So being a fellow entrepreneur, obviously I understand. So what has been the lowest point in your journey? And how did you overcome that?
Frankly, I've gone through multiple such points where, I mean, if I look back at the last 5 years, there have been at least 3 instances where, we could have gone under. So, as I said, right, 2013, 14, sports was completely unknown, right? There was no market really. So, we were actually figuring out everything from the basics upwards. So, finding funding was very difficult, right? I had to wait all the way to 2015, 16 to actually, raise my first round. Because we did not know what the model was. We did not know how we would, we knew the market was there in terms of the demand was there. But how do we convert that to a business potential? It took us a good couple of years to figure that piece out. We did multiple experiments, right? Working with schools, working outside, running events, right? And then settled down on this neighborhood club model. So I would say, again, that meeting with my first angel, right? As I said, was a watershed moment for us. Right, so actually he completely transformed the way we thought about the whole thing, right? So that first check gave us so much more confidence, and we went out to raise 10 times that amount, right, later. But the whole idea, the whole mindset changed with that one check, saying, okay, we need to build a credible product that lasts in the long run. So this will take time, right? Hence, this is how we can approach the whole thing, right? So that was one. So early days, this market, how big is it? How do we, figure that out? Was the big, and therefore raising funds was the biggest challenge. After that, we went through multiple phases where while expansion, right, as with most startups, we made our fair share of mistakes.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's call it learning. It's a positive word.
Yeah. So we've had our fair share of learning moments, right, where we were at one stage where we almost ran out of cash because we were expanding too fast. Right, and there was not enough efficiency inside the system. Thankfully, we got over that, raised our next round, and moved on, and then used that money to build the tech, which would actually, help us scale more efficiently. So multiple, points.
So what do you do when you are having one of those bad and sad day as an entrepreneur?
Go out and play.
That you must be doing on a daily basis, no?
Not to my heart's content at the moment, but yeah. So I mean, I'm serious, right? So days when I'm most frustrated, I usually go out and play football, right? So that helps cope at the first level, right? But again, on a more serious note, having a good support structure, right, for any entrepreneur, right? This is true. That is very important. My family has been a huge source of support for me, especially my wife. She's like stayed by me, all along, right? Even when I'm not, bringing home anything, right? Spend so much time, did not know, what to do. She would act as a sounding board, right? So she's been a huge source of strength. Having a co-founder, right, who's there with as much skin in the game as I do, has been a huge, source of strength to get through these.
Yeah. And so what message would you like to give to the aspiring entrepreneurs who wants to do something in their sports ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're passionate about, the space, right? My feeling is you have to be at it, right? It may take a little bit longer than one of the mature industries that, others are following, right? Because, your idea may take a little bit longer than others to, come to that fruition. But you have to be at it, right? And when the right moment comes, you will be able to scale and you will be able to become successful.
Yeah, because so it's a long game.
It's a long
game.
It's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah. And there will be that 18th kilometer moment where you feel like, okay, I cannot run anymore, but you have to gather the courage and just reach the finish line. So it is like that. And for me, I feel always good to meet people like you, because I feel it's a source of strength for each other in the ecosystem. Absolutely. Because then you know that, okay, you're not alone in this journey. There are other people as well. So it's very nice. And
so I personally feel this the sports space as well, right? I think it's reaching a point where you have your typical hockey stick curve, and then you have the point where the industry explodes, right? I think we are very close to reaching a point where at least at the grassroots level, you will see huge explosion in terms of people picking up sport. A lot more companies will come into the picture with different business models, because this has always been a very fundamental need, right? That demand has been there, and now there are multiple ways of ways in which businesses can be built, where this whole demand can be monetized, right? So the sports club, emergence of sports clubs is one example that we said, right? Bangalore had 3 when I first started. Today there are 500, and these are all
3 to 500 in a span of how many years?
4 years, right? And Bangalore, I'm talking Bangalore alone. Let's come to Kochi, right? 18 months, 60 turfs were set up, right? Wow. This is the pace. So every new city where this wave is hitting, right, the speed of customer adoption, speed of infra creation is just going up exponentially, right? So I clearly see a future 5 years down the line where all the top 25 cities of India will have neighborhood sports clubs, and people will throng to them. People will play.
Yeah. So probably I can see an avenue where you can partner with all these real estate giants because most of them, they have their own clubhouses and all of that.
Which are not used at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people will go out and pay monthly amount, and then they will use the facility, but then because the system is not in place.
So infra is just one part of the puzzle, right? So I mean, how do you weave a community around the infra is important, right? So that's where I feel this service plays a very important role, and the role that tech plays in terms of skill matching people together, getting them together, right? So once you build these layers in and you have the full stack in place, even your apartment sports complexes will fill out. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll get there.
So for all the viewers who are watching this interview, just go to sporthood.in, come out and play. You will see and feel the difference in you, I think, even after 1 or 2 matches.
Yeah.
Even after just going and seeing the vibe at the Sporthood centers, it will make a lot of difference. So yeah, we'll sign off the conversation. Rahul, it was very nice speaking with you, and keep up the good work. And I'll ensure in my personal capacity and my professional capacity that the tribe of Sporthood grows and grows.
Thank you.
Further. Yeah.
All the best to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.